Imagine, if you will, someone who could pioneer hedge funds with honesty and has the immense fiscal insight to do all of that, and then through soaring to the top of his career says, you know, I think what I really want to do is, after founding a few companies, I want to pass on to some other firms. And so he, with his insightful mind, he picks out the ideal business procedures for mostly mid-sized firms, I'm going to say. And I'd like to introduce you now to Keith Danko, who runs Witherspoon Consulting Services.
Well, I will keep it to a few words. So I didn't know Bart was writing this book. I thought I was having a meeting with him that my PR guy had set up to talk about a new company I had bought. In fact, I thought there were strict negotiations behind the scenes, and that was the only thing you're supposed to ask me about.
Yeah, that's probably so.
And we were sitting there talking at Small World Coffee Shop, I think, yeah,
right.
one morning, and suddenly he's asking me questions like, well, in terms of being a CEO, what are your models and what do you think about it? And I think I said to you, Bart, why do you want to know this stuff? I said, no, I'm really interested in it. And then a month and a half later, he calls me and says, listen, your stuff in the book is turning out pretty well. But I want to ask you some follow-up questions. I think that's kind of...
It's kind of, yeah.
Mike, I wasn't invited to any of those dinners. Or there was no wine. I think I paid for the coffee.
That's as close as journalists get to veracity. Yeah.
But I'll just tell you quickly, because I know and I haven't looked in the book yet, so I'm taking your word for what you quoted. But one of the things that I told Bart is that one of the things that I look at, and anybody can look at, you want to see great CEOs in action, and it's very transparent. Look at the great sports coaches, because you can read the paper every day. There's a million columns written about them on the internet and the newspaper, and then watch them if it's football or basketball. You can watch every single thing they do, see the results the very next day. And I would recommend that HBO's done some great documentaries on people like John Wooden and Vince Lombardi. They're fabulous. I went to Duke. Mike Krzyzewski you just watch what the guy does every year. And what these coaches do, they take players who rarely are the best talented teams. The Yankees do well every year because they buy players, but John Wooden and Mike Krzyzewski and Vince Lombardi weren't able to do that, but they won because they followed a certain process. And if you look at them, they're really all the same. And there's a guy now in New York, Tom Coughlin, who is doing it. He's a very mild-mannered guy. I don't know how many people are football fans, but I like the Giants. But the Giants, the last 7-8 years, have not one year had the most talented team. Yet they've won the most Super Bowls. They've won 2 Super Bowls. And it's interesting, I'll tell you just very quickly, everyone's followed this hazing incident that happened in Miami, the football player, right? And I'm sure a lot of you were surprised by that, didn't even know it went on. What's very interesting what Tom Coughlin did. Tom Coughlin had a meeting with his team, and I read the New York Post every day, so just throw that out there. But, so here you go, the big blue wall, Coughlin won't stand for hazing with his Giants. That's the headline. But that's not what Coughlin said. It's not what he did. What he did is he called the team together, and he said, quote, boundaries are set with freedom in the middle. The boundaries are commitment, responsibility, passion, trust, and teamwork. Within those guidelines, there's plenty of freedom, but no one can cross those 5 boundaries. That's what he said. He didn't say, you can't do this, you can't do that. He repeated what he says to the team at the beginning of every year and what every day he executes. And he lets his players figure it out. And of course, players who don't get that, that's how you win, get cut from the team. Just like in business, it's Mike, right? What Mike didn't say was that you create that culture. And what that culture does is very quickly, you know who the team players are and who aren't. And they quit on you. You don't have to fire them. They leave. They go somewhere else. So anyway, if you want to follow somebody who I think is doing it right now, you can read a million things on Tom Coughlin every day and watch what the giants do, and I think it just teaches you a lot. I think that's what I talked to you about in the book. Is that in the book?
Yeah, well, not that specific into it, right.
Anyway, thanks for hosting this. You guys.